All right, guys, I'm Jinx. I'm the new, or one of the new Dojo co-directors. That doesn't mean I'm super awesome at this game. It just means I like helping new bros. And so this is Fleet Basics 101, and we're going to talk about the deployment and make sure everybody gets their coalition comms, everything set up, has Mumble set up, has a few ships to take. So I'm recording this and I'm trying to do video as well. We'll see how that works out. So please ask questions in Fleet Chat or just pipe up in comms if you have a question. So this is not Intro to Nullsec. There are a lot of recordings of that on the Dojo. There will be some overlap. We're going to end up putting our ships in UTEC Q, which is the staging for the move ups. So the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and add a Jinx to your watch list. So your FC will say add me to your FC is fleet commander. So they're in charge of the fleet. You'll want to add them to the watch list. I usually put them on top. So I'm going to put, I can't add myself to the watch list, so I'm going to put Jana on the watch list as well. So go ahead and put Jana on the watch list. And we'll say Jana is going to be my second in command. So then what you can do is you can actually color code the watch list, and to do that you have to hit the hamburger menu, which is the stack of 3 at the very top, 3 lines, top left hand corner, and you say enter color edit mode. And if you're a logistics pilot, you should always use color edit mode because it's awesome and new. So anyway, I like to put the FCs as white, a little white background. So you can get, I forget the actual number, I think it's 15 people on the watch list. So then if you're a logistics pilot, what you're going to do is you're going to put what's called, you put the fleet commanders, you put the Logi anchor, that's the logistics anchor, the healer, and then you're going to put special snowflakes. So if they're, and what that means is people in really expensive ships, Hugins, Dictors, other things that help the fleet, they're going to S up in fleet. You're going to add them. And then you can also add other people or logistics healers so that you can see how everyone's doing. So let's just go ahead and add each other and mess with the colors a little bit. So just add a few more people in the fleet. Is anyone having trouble with adding people to the watch list?
No, but I have a question. Can you do it as in groups? Because I only seem to do it individually, which seems quite time consuming.
So that's, no, you can't do that. So then to do other colors, so what I do for for snowflakes, I think I put them in yellow, and for Logi, I put them in light blue. But again, the coloring is totally what you want to do. So that is how you do a watch list. So if you're just in DPS or Tackle or EWAR, DPS is the main line doctrine. So if they call for Feroxes or Maelstroms, that is what DPS means. It's the majority of the ships. Then you definitely need to have the anchors and secondary anchors on there. So once you have the watch list, when you start flying around, they'll say anchor on me. And that usually means keep at range 1000. So what I want you to do is on your watch list, either right click or left click and hit keep at range 1000 on Jinx Dojo. So this is called anchoring. So whenever you have the FC says anchor on me, anchor on me. All right, looks like everyone's anchors. Everybody just go ahead and control space for right now. Or get to Jinx Dojo and then control space. All right, next we're going to go over the broadcast window. So the broadcast window is very important if you're in the DPS ships, or if you're in, it's important altogether, logistics, tackle, EWAR. So what I want you to do is go ahead and open the fleet window, which is the 3 chevrons. If you have the default setup, it's below the corporation and above map. Anybody have an issue finding the fleet finder? Okay, so then go ahead and click on the History tab. And once you're on the History tab, this is how you can see broadcasted targets. So for instance, I'm going to broadcast this mobile depot as a target. So if you're on your combat overview in ZTech S, you would see a little 1 come up. So this is how it broadcasts. If you're in DPS, it's also often good to color code the broadcast. Make sure that you have broadcast targeted up. So how do we do that? So go to broadcast settings, hit the hamburger menu, top left button, hit broadcast settings. So I typically do not have broadcast target up because I'm logistics pilot most of the time. But once you're in broadcast setting, you can hit target, and we're going to go ahead and make that red. So when it pops up, we know to shoot that. You can see that Narca also broadcasted for shield, so that's very important. So all our doctrines are shield, so you primarily should be broadcasting for shield if you need reps, if you're taking damage, or if you're red boxed by lots of enemies. So what you do, if you look at the very bottom of the fleet window, you might have to hit the little arrow key to display it, but there's a broadcast need shield. So everybody go ahead and broadcast that you need shield. That's good. Okay, so again, on broadcast settings, you want to go ahead and if you're going to be a logistics pilot, it's really good. I like to color the shield as blue, and then armor I typically do as, I forget what I do. I don't have it on this tune. Anyway, you color code them, but you can do armor, and capacitor is usually yellow. I think I do armor as green. Narca linked a GIF in Fleet, which is when to broadcast. So basically, you get yellow box, which when enemies targeting you. If just a couple are, you don't broadcast, or if a lot are, you don't broadcast. That's right when you start getting fired upon. It's here I'm saying it wrong. When everyone's yellow boxing you, you broadcast now. Okay, so that's the broadcast window. So everybody sees. So typically you're going to be following lines that the FC does. So I'm going to tell you to go ahead and align here. So I want everybody to align. So I'll say align, align, align. And I was not aligning myself. So when you're on grid align, you can't right click align. You need to just approach it. Okay, if everybody's aligned, we should warp together. Yeah, Jana pointed out that after this, you should look in the menu how to set up hotkeys for the shield and armor buttons. Typically, you should only be broadcasting for shield, but logistics pilots are often looking for if you're broadcasting for armor as well. If you're in an armor fleet, which is less common, then you would go ahead and broadcast for armor first. Okay, I've rebroadcasted target. And you want to get really fast at these. So it's really important. In some fleets, you'll be pinging in and out. And if everyone's not aligned, then you'll get left behind. So you see we left a couple behind and they land late. So it's really critical for everyone to be able to lock targets at the same time, and also for it's best if all the ships are together doing the same thing at once. So if we're all trying to fire on the enemy, then we want to land at the same time. It can also, if you're not aligned, you can get bubbled and we can get split up, and that's how the fleet gets wrecked. Okay, let me check my notes real quick.
I'm just curious, when a wing lead or wing commander, whatever you call it, calls out stuff, do you follow what they say or follow what the FC says at all times?
So really, it's the FC. So in Eve, it doesn't really work to split up to wing commands like that very well. And particularly just it's best to have just the FC. The logistics anchor they'll also often be in their own comms, and they might be calling out different things. So for anchoring and orbiting, it's 1000. It's typical. Sometimes FC might be say 1000. If he says orbit 1000, go ahead and orbit him. So that's the big thing with the fleets is whatever, I'm telling you basics, but whatever the FC says is what you should do. So depending on the fleet and what kind of tracking the weapons have, then it'll matter if you need to do keep at range or orbiting. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I looked at my notes and now I have to look again. Okay, we're going to practice anchoring a little bit and just following FC orders, get some other orders in. So I want everybody to go ahead and align to Victor Tech 3. Align, align, align. So see all but one of us aligned, so that's a pretty good warp. We all warp at the speed of the slowest ship. So even though some of us are in frigates, we're actually warping as a Tau war. So it's really important that you bring the ships that the FC wants because the warp speed depends on the biggest ship. And if you're not, if you want to bring a bigger ship for whatever reason, first of all, the FC might tell you no, but if they're okay, they're going to say flag exempt from warp. And you do that by hitting the hamburger menu at the top left of the fleet window, and you hit flag exempt from warp, and then you will not take any fleet warps. So you see that I tricked you a little bit. So I had you aligned to the Victor Tech 3 gate, but then just in case there was somebody listening on our comms or I was worried for any reason, I warped us to the Asher House, which is in the same general direction, but the align worked. So that's why it's important not to warp yourself because you might get left behind or you might we're at a perch now at Victor Tech 3. So if you warped yourself, you would be at the gate, and if there were bad guys there, you get blown up and be alone. So go ahead and align to Victor Tech 3. Just hit approach. I'm going to do a quick warp this time. Let's see how everybody does. And we left a few more behind that time. Okay, everybody go ahead and get down. So then the FC will say the gate is red, or and that means do not jump. And you do not say the J word while you're in fleet, because if you say FC, do we jump? Then people hear the J word and they jump through. So don't do that. So then the FC might say gate is green or jump, 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 and everybody go ahead and jump through. And you might say hold your cloak. So hold your cloak is on the other side of the gate. You get 30 seconds. Gives the FC a chance to see what's on the other side of the gate. Okay, so everything looks good here. So let's go ahead and align to Beta Tech 3. So if you're new to null or G, you're hearing me say attack, and that means dash. And that's just something easier to say on comms. A lot of times only the first 3 letters or symbols are called out in a system name, so you need to be prepared. They also might do that for targets when broadcasting targets to shoot. So we're going to go ahead and warp. Oh, I warped myself. So in FC Bingo, that's a game we play. If the FC warps himself, then the fleet needs to warp after him. So you guys go ahead and warp yourself to Beta Tech 3. So FC Bingo is just the game we play during the boring part of fleets to see how often the FC messes up. Okay, gate is red, gate is red. Let's go ahead and orbit the gate at 1000. keep your transversal up so that these rats don't shoot you until everybody lands. If you need to, go ahead and jump through. Is anyone not here?
Hibby's not here. I never worked with these. I've got no idea where you went.
You can also, so a good thing to do is you can warp to fleet members. So you can warp to me on the watch list if you need to. Okay, let's go ahead and jump through. Jump, jump, jump.
And FC, during that, one of the rats targeted me. If it was a player and they targeted me, do I say, hey, someone's targeting me, or just do I broadcast something?
Just broadcast. So it's, yeah, in some of these fleets, there's going to be 150 people in DPS comms. It can be kind of distracting. A lot of times there is a quiet channel so that you don't have to listen to everyone with their latest memes. If you are a healer, pilot, and logistics, the Logicomms is always very calm, so that's a nice place to be. All right, so I want everybody to just go ahead and break cloak on the Victor Tech 3 side of the gate. I mean, on Beta Tech 3 side of the gate. So let's orbit 1000. And then the FC, since a lot of us are in tackle or E-War, I want you guys to go ahead and burn some tax. So what that means is you're going to turn your pop mod on and go in a random direction. And what I want you to get 150 kilometers off and start doing Control B, which puts bookmarks. So the more bookmarks you have in every system all over the place, that'll let me warp off. If I need to warp the fleet somewhere, I can click you and warp the fleet. So then we'll be safe. And the more bookmarks you have is if later in the fleet, where you currently are is hot, you can warp back to one of those bookmarks that you've made. And now I can warp the fleet to you and be safe. Anybody have any question on burning tax?
Just to verify, you said 150?
Yeah, you need to be minimum 150. So 200 is usually good because the fleet kind of balls a little bit around the FC. So even though I can go ahead and give everybody a cold warp, we're all going up here to Hoshi. See a cold warp, just in case things get too hot, not everybody's aligned, but I can warp and regroup everybody here. So let's go ahead and align to UTEC Q. So UTEC Q is the main staging right now of Legacy Coalition. So that's Brave and all our allies. I will warn you that this gate that we're on right here, the Victor Tech 3 gate in Beta Tech 3, is often gate camped. So it's good to check your intel, check comms, or coming something like an interceptor or with friends if you're going to move. There'll be plenty of move ops to get things over here. So please don't, bring a maelstrom through alone. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and warp the fleet to UTEC Q. And can I get a +1? So what a +1 is, if you're in a tackle ship, that usually means someone that's going to jump through and tell me what's going on the other side of the gate. So all right, so Narca, I want you to +1. Go ahead and jump. You only are going to jump through the gate. Tell me what you see on the other side.
Okay.
When I say tell me what you're going to see, you're going to want to have your local window dragged out, and you're going to tell me if it's all friendly, how many neutrals there are. If there are neutrals, you want to get a D-scan. Can somebody link dscan.me into the fleet?
So, +1 neutral, 52 in local, so 51 blues, and nothing on D-scan.
Okay, so and you did the 14 AU D-scan?
Yep,
okay.
Full 360 angle.
Yeah, 360. So everybody go ahead and let's practice that. So if you don't know, you can use the directional scanner, which is Alt-D, and it pops up. You want to set everything to max AU, 360 degrees. you can do a filter on your PvP basic filter, and then we'll go ahead and hit scan. And then you can copy paste this and put it into dscan.me, that website. And then once you have that, you put it in fleet chat, and the FC will be able to see what kind of ship types the enemy has. So that's really important intel. If someone is giving intel, like a +1, then it's important to be quiet and let them do that. So everybody go ahead and jump through to UTech-Q. Okay, everybody break cloak and go ahead and anchor on Jinx. Go ahead and put your prop mod on, or the FC might say prop mod green. So go ahead and catch up with me. Destroyers, you might have a little bit of trouble keeping up with me. Anchor at 1000 is usually typical. Keep it range. So everybody should have their prop mod on to keep up with me. Our prop mod's off. They often will call for like 1 cycle of prop mod. So if you're in a bubble, they might say prop mod on until you're out of the bubble, or they might just say 1 cycle prop mod, get on anchor. So we're a little spread out. So if you are in the back, go ahead and cycle your prop mod until you catch up with me. Lines can often change quickly, so I'm going to go ahead and broadcast some targets. I don't want to see the fleet make those lines. So align. We're going to align there. Never mind, scratch that. Let's align over here. Go ahead and put prop mod on to the align. All right, looks like we did it. So prop mod's off. So now let's go ahead and go to the keep star. If you haven't seen a keep star yet, we're gonna go land on one. A little bit cold warp here. Let's see how we do. We got about half. So aligning, and honestly, I'm not great at this. I'm usually trying to help out in chat a little too often. You want to align as quickly as you can. Getting your align skills up are really important. Those are the agility skills, and that'll help your survivability a lot, because otherwise you might be the one being left behind and bubbled. And if you're bubbled away from the fleet, you're probably going to die. So one of the things, so typically we fight, not typically, but a lot of times we fight in GE, whereas if you die, you just go and reship and you rejoin the fight. We're going on deployment, so you're not going to be able to do that. So it's more important to warp out. So if you're watching the fight or hearing that things aren't going well, as soon as you start taking damage, you can try to warp off to something that is within your align, and then come back and rejoin the fight. Because if you don't die, then you'll come back and logistics will have a chance to heal you. Whereas if you didn't warp off, you might die. So that's more important. It is hard to do, but it's particularly important when the Logi is having a hard time holding. So a lot of, in your first fleet, things are going to be chaotic. There's a lot of yelling. If you're in DPS comms, it's going to be tough. So my recommendation, if you haven't been on a big fleet op before, is do take a frigate, something that you don't care about losing. And, get a free one from Dojo if you have to. And that way you can just kind of take it in. You're going to have to get used to the terminology. there's things I'm going to miss. The FC is going to change things up on you. Telling what an FC is, well, Jinx said isn't going to work, so you do what they say. Okay, so I want everybody to go ahead and dock up here at the at UQ at the Keepstar, and go ahead and leave your ship here. So now you have at least one ship at staging, and I can replace all those ships at GE Tech. So now we're going to kind of get into a little bit more about the deployment. So does anyone have any questions about just the fleet basics that we went over? Okay, so what I want you to do is make sure that you have a we don't know yet if they're going to want us to put our death clone or our medical clone or a jump clone at the deployment. I think it's probably easiest if we put a medical clone out there.
Jinx.
Yeah.
I think I actually read it was we're putting death clones out in our deployment area.
Okay, so that means like right now your medical clone is probably in GEHAV. So what you're going to do is once we get there on a move up, you're going to move your medical clone. So go ahead and look at the clone bay, and you're going to hit change station. And you can actually put it to UQ right now if you wanted to. And so then whenever you die, you'll be at the deployed location. Or if there's no ops going on at the time, you'll be able to jump clone back to GE or impasse, make some ISK, and then when the ping goes out and we need people in fleet, you'll be able to death clone immediately no matter what back to. So that is super important for everyone to set up those death clones, because that's how we get big fleet numbers. That's how we win fights. So you have to be really disciplined about your jump clones back in GE, because you're not going to have to fly back from the deployment to install another jump clone. So my recommendation would be to train your infomorph psychology to as high as you can. Unfortunately for alphas, I think that's only one, but if you are an omega, you should request this book and we'll fill it today. John Donut just linked it, so that'll let you get multiple, and you're going to want, I think there's 2 places in GE that you can put jump clones, and I recommend putting at least 2 in GE, 1 in impasse, just in case you forget that one time when you death clone back, so that you can get back. But you should make a habit whenever you use a jump clone to go ahead and hit the clone bay and reinstall the clone. And it's really cheap in our spaces. Here's like 1 ISK. Infomorph synchronizing is to be faster. So if you get that skill up, you can come back about once a day. So then say all the fleet ops end up being in EUTZ, but then you also can play a little bit in earlier. So you could jump clone back early in the day, make some ISK, and then death clone for the big fleets later in the day. Does anyone have any questions about using the clones for deploying? All right. So
Just one quick question. I had a medical clone out here already. Do I just leave it out here?
in UQ or in GE? You only have 1 medical clone, so you'll end up having to move it.
No, I mean not medical. I mean I have a jump clone heal, but I have the death clone at GE.
Right. So it'd probably be good to have. There'll probably still be move ops from UTEQ, and this will we'll probably fall back to here to restock if we need to. So I would keep 1 here unless you're an alpha. Then if you're an alpha, keep 1 in GE and your death clone in the deployment. Okay, so let me check my notes. So there'll be lots of move fleets pinged for, and so if Kigali had put out a announcement in Slack, and I'm sure they'll go on the forums for soon, but depending on how much ISK you have and the skill you have, he's asked you to have a group of ships, and what you're going to do is there's going to be pings for move ops, and so those will actually be either fleets going gate to gate that you'll have to pay attention like we just did. We just kind of did a mini move op here, or they'll be using Titans to bridge us between structures all the way to the staging point. So it's what you're going to want to do on a move op is you're going to take your ship and or even an industrial filled with fittings, and just like you're going on a backpacking trip in real life or going on travel or whatever, you want to shove as much stuff you can that you might need, or for if you could take a Ferox and fit another Ferox worth of fittings inside, then that would be a good idea. If you saw Kigali actually asked you not to fit the ships because you don't want to put the rigs on there, because we'll probably set up courier contracts. If you know Brave's Little Toaster, I think there'll be free shipping out to the deployment zone. But so there'll be two different kind of move ops. There'll be courier contracts where they're just shipping stuff, but then there'll actually be moving whole fleets worth of ships, and there'll probably be some big stuff that you can see if you want to see that. You can move out, but if you've got the cargo space, there's no reason not to take all the nanite paste you need and take extra fittings, just in case we have to reship. Does anyone have any questions on that?
When they call deployments, does every alliance member have to have a clone or medical clone, jump, whatever, heal, or is it just combat ships?
It'll be just, well, everyone will want everyone to have a medical clone out there, but it'll only be, you're not taking your Vexor Navy issues or your procurers or anything. So it is only combat ships out there. And just as Brave as always, none of this is required. This is, we want you to have fun, but we want you to help. We want to help the coalition. So please do this to take part.
Who's going to pass up a war? This is awesome.
Yeah.
True.
It can be a grind, and I'd rather see you guys on some fleets for the whole time and later, rather than burn out in a week. So yeah, we'll be staging out a hostile space. So a lot of times, if you're in that space and you have the medical clone, there might not be a ton to do unless a big fleet is called for. So that's why we want to have the jump clone back. It might be hard to get things in and out, so you'll want to pay attention to how the courier services, people with jump freighters will be able to get things in and out, or there'll probably be future move ops. Any questions on the deployment in general?
Yeah, where is this post? Because I'm trying to find. I can't find it.
So on Kigali's, it is on the it's in Slack on the announcements.
Do we know where we're supposed to have our ship staged before the move up? Because I've heard UQ
Here.
and I've heard GE.
There'll probably be bridges from GE as well, but UQ will be where a lot of we'll be going from after that.
Okay, it's just, yeah, a lot of the AETZ guys asked Kigali directly, and he said GE.
BLT can only dock in GE and not UTQ, so if you have ships board, they should stay in GE.
That is true. I'll give you guys ships again when we get back, just in case they're not here.
But we have already ships staged in UTQ and they will be moved as well. Or we have to use the test courier service.
Yeah. So again, this is all late breaking information. We don't even know where we're going. At least I don't. So Cassie also linked a bunch of defenders. These are really good if you don't have a lot of ISK or can't get into the Feroxes. So bombers can be a problem for the fleets. Tess has lost some I think nightmare fleets to bombs. So one thing that we've really started doing is bringing these defender fittings. Go ahead and save these, and fittings. Right now, they're not in Brave Newbies fittings, and I think I'm going to try to get them added. But these will prevent the bombs. So we've made good use of these. So if you don't have a ton of ISK, you should bring E-War, Tackle, and one of these defender ships, at least.
We probably don't know yet, but when is the deployment actually going to start?
Test said 1 week. I think the move ops are going to start this week. All right, if there's no questions, we're going to move on to the next part, which is super important to have the coalition comms set up. So I'm going to link the wiki, and then we're just going to sit in the fleet and help people out until everyone's got it set up. This is a super exciting portion, but when we've combined with the test fleet, we often lose a good bit of our numbers just because people don't have these set up in advance. So we're going to focus on setting up the test comms. So a lot of times we're in Voltron fleets, and what Voltron is it's the from the cartoon, if you don't remember, but the rest of Legacy, other than test, form Voltron fleets. So we all combine into one. Those will be in Brave comms. Sometimes we combine with test fleets, and then we move over to test comms, and that's when it's super important to have these set up. So you guys are already in Mumble. You already have Mumble. That's half the battle, and now we just have to get the ESI set up on the test website. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll go through this and see if everybody can get it set up. Anybody have any other questions before we do that? Really good attendance today, guys. Thanks.